Chosen one, stop. Before you do anything else, stop. Because what's moving right now isn't random. What brought you to this moment wasn't an algorithm, wasn't a suggestion, wasn't coincidence. Heaven interrupted your day. And I need you to hear me clearly, because some of you have been running on empty for so long, you forgot what full even feels like. You've survived things nobody clapped for. You've carried weight that would have broken most people in half. You've smiled in church, smiled at the dinner table, smiled in the grocery store while something deep in your soul was limping, bleeding quiet, crying in a language nobody around you could hear. And you thought, I just have to hold on a little longer. But lately, something in your spirit doesn't feel right. Not fear exactly, not depression exactly, just this low, unshakable feeling like a warning light you keep meaning to check but haven't. That feeling? That's God. Here's what nobody tells you about divine warnings. God does not warn what he plans to destroy. He warns what he plans to preserve. That dashboard light on your soul isn't damnation. It's protection. It's the crack appearing in the foundation before the house feels it. It's the storm siren going off before the roof caves in. God is exposing something right now, not to terrify you, but to stop the collapse before it starts. Because here's the truth that should shake you awake. Disobedience doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it doesn't look like rebellion. Sometimes it looks like delay, dismissal, rationalization, spiritual numbness so gradual you didn't notice you'd gone cold. And God is saying, not one more day. Before this message is over, I'm going to show you the 3 signs that everything is closer to shifting than you think. And one of those signs is so subtle, so dangerously quiet, that most believers don't recognize it until the damage has already started. But you're here, right now, right on time. This is not your punishment season. This is your protection season. If this message found you at the exact moment your spirit needed it, type right now, I will not ignore God's warning, because heaven is still speaking, and it's speaking directly to you. Now I need you to understand something. This warning didn't find everybody today. It found you. And that's not something to be proud of, that's something to be sobered by. Because being chosen doesn't mean you're celebrated. It doesn't mean your life looks like a highlight reel. It doesn't mean the road has been easy or the nights have been short. Being chosen means you've been entrusted with weight. And the greater the weight you carry, the earlier God warns you. That's not theology I made up. That's a pattern woven through every page of Scripture. He warned Noah before a single cloud appeared in the sky. He warned Joseph through dreams before the famine was even a whisper on the wind. He warned Jonah before the consequences swallowed him whole. He warned Paul before Damascus and redirected an entire destiny in one blinding moment. The greater the assignment, the earlier the warning. So let me ask you something honest, something I need you to sit with. Where have you been losing peace but pretending you still have permission? You know that feeling. You've felt it before. That quiet unease that settles in your chest when you know something isn't right. But life is busy. The bills are real. The family needs you. And it's easier to keep moving than to stop and face what God is trying to show you. So you kept going. And some of you, if you're honest right now, can think of a moment. A specific moment, when you knew better, when something in your spirit pulled back like a hand on a hot stove, but you overrode it, you rationalized it, you told yourself you'd deal with it later, and later cost you. That wasn't the enemy whispering, that was God tapping the brakes before the cliff. Here's what a doctor does when he catches something early. He doesn't walk into the room and say, "You're dying." He says, "We found something, and if we move now, we can stop this before it becomes something we can't reverse." That's not a death sentence. That's a lifeline wrapped in urgency. That's exactly how God warns the chosen. He doesn't show up with condemnation. Condemnation says you are doomed. God doesn't deal in doom for his children. Warning says, change course and live. Warning says, I see what's coming, and I love you too much to let you walk into it blind. Ezekiel 33:7. God told the prophet, I have made you a watchman. When you see the danger coming, you sound the alarm. Some of you are your own watchman right now, and the alarm has been going off inside you. You've just been hitting snooze. So let me tell you how God's warning actually arrives, because it rarely comes the way people expect. It comes as a loss of peace in a place that used to feel safe. It comes as a scripture that keeps finding you the same verse, 3 different places, 3 different days, and you can't shake it. It comes as a broken appetite for the old habits that used to satisfy you, the things you reached for in the dark that suddenly feel hollow and wrong. It comes as relational discomfort, a friction in certain connections that your spirit registers before your mind can explain it. And it comes as that strong, deep, unmistakable hesitation, the one you feel right before you're about to step somewhere God never authorized. That's not anxiety. That's discernment in operation. And some of you have been calling it anxiety for years, when in reality, God has been posting warning signs on every corner of that road. Some of you thought you were under attack, when in reality God was blocking you from walking blind into your own heartbreak. Let that land. The pressure you've been feeling wasn't the enemy winning. It was heaven intervening. The interruption in your plans wasn't bad luck. It was divine redirection, wearing a painful disguise. The door that closed wasn't failure. It was protection you didn't have the angle to see yet. God doesn't waste warning on people he's finished with. If he's warning you, he's still writing your story, and he needs you to turn the page with him, not against him. Because here's what I know about people who've walked as long as you have. You've seen enough of life to know the difference between a season of growth and a season of drift. You've lived long enough to remember the moments you listened and the moments you didn't. And you already know which memory sits heavier on your soul. This is your moment to listen. In just a few minutes, I'm going to show you the first test that always appears right before God opens the next door in your life. It will look familiar. It will feel manageable. And that's exactly why most people fail it. But not you. Not today. Because the warning found you, and that means the preservation has already begun. Now that you're still here, I need to tell you something about where you've been. Because what you've been living through wasn't just hard times. It wasn't just bad luck. It wasn't just age catching up with you or the world getting heavier. What you've been in is a war. And the reason it was so hard to name is because this enemy doesn't announce himself. He doesn't kick down your front door. He doesn't come in with fire and noise. He slips through what was left unguarded. He works in the dark. He works in the slow. He works in the quiet erosion of everything that once made you strong. Think about it. When did you last feel completely at peace? Not just distracted from the pain, actually at peace. When did you last wake up without that low-grade heaviness sitting on your chest before your feet even hit the floor? You weren't lazy. You were fighting resistance you couldn't explain. You weren't falling apart. You were holding together under pressure that had no human language for it. You weren't losing your mind. You were carrying the weight of an invisible campaign designed specifically to wear you down before your breakthrough could arrive. Ephesians 6:12 tells us plainly, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness. Not people, not circumstances, not bad timing. Powers, rulers, darkness with strategy. And here is how that strategy works against the chosen. It doesn't come as destruction first. It comes as exhaustion. It comes as confusion that makes simple decisions feel impossible. It comes as delay after delay, until you start to believe that maybe God forgot your address. It comes as false guilt, that voice that tells you you're too broken, too old, too far gone to be used anymore. It comes as emotional fog so thick you can't see 2 feet in front of you on a road you've walked 1,000 times. It's a slow leak in a tire. You don't blow out. You just gradually lose pressure until one day you realize you've been riding on flat for months. It's termites in a beam. The house looks fine from the street, but something structural has been quietly hollowed out from the inside. That's what prolonged invisible warfare does. It doesn't destroy you dramatically. It just makes you smaller, quieter, less expectant, less dangerous. And that right there is the goal. Because here's what the enemy understood about you that you may have forgotten about yourself. He did not spend all that time trying to weaken you because you were empty. He came after you because something in you still threatens darkness. You don't send an army after nothing. You send pressure, confusion, delay, and fog after something that has power, after something that carries a calling, after something that, if it ever rises fully, changes everything around it. The very intensity of what you've survived is the evidence of what you carry. Job lost everything in a single day, not because he was weak, because he was marked. Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, not because he failed, because he was faithful. Paul was shipwrecked, beaten, imprisoned, not because God abandoned him, because the message inside him was worth that much resistance. And you, dear chosen one, you have had seasons where it felt like everything took twice as much strength just to stay upright, twice as much faith just to keep praying, twice as much courage just to keep going when nobody around you understood why it was so hard. That was not weakness, that was warfare. And the fact that you survived, that you are still breathing, still believing, still watching this right now, is not luck. That is grace carrying you farther than you even know. Grace does not keep the unimportant. Grace keeps the essential. If God kept you through what should have taken you out, whisper it right now in the comments, "Still here by grace." Because you need to say that out loud. You need to claim it. Because the enemy wants you to believe your survival was accidental. God wants you to know your survival was intentional. But listen, and this is where I need your full attention. The danger now is not what attacked you yesterday. The danger is what will tempt you next. And the next test will not come looking evil. It will not come with a warning label. It will not announce itself as the thing that could cost you everything. It will come looking reasonable. It will come looking like rest when you should be rising. It will come looking like silence when God told you to speak. It will come looking like one more delay you can afford when heaven is saying the window is closing. That is where we are right now. And if you think the battle was intense before, what's coming next requires everything God has been building in you. Are you ready to see what God has been protecting you for? Now let me get specific with you, because the first warning God sends before a major breakthrough doesn't always come loud. It doesn't arrive with sirens. It doesn't show up looking dangerous. It shows up looking familiar, and that's exactly what makes it deadly. Here's what I've watched happen to good people, faithful people, people who prayed, who sacrificed, who held on through seasons that would have destroyed anyone without God. They come within reach of everything they believed for. And right at that moment, something old comes knocking. Not a stranger. Something that knows your name. Maybe it's a person who hurt you coming back softer now, more humble, more apologetic, saying everything you needed to hear 3 years ago. And part of you thinks maybe this time is different. Maybe it's not a person. Maybe it's a mindset. That old voice that whispers, "You're not enough, you never were, so why keep trying?" You thought you'd healed from it, but here it is again, same poison, different bottle, same label you recognize, same smell that took you years to wash off. Maybe it's a compromise you made peace with God about leaving, and suddenly the opportunity comes back dressed up, looking reasonable, wearing the language of wisdom and practicality. Hear me, chosen one. What returns is not always restored. Sometimes it's tested access. The Bible tells us in Exodus that when God was moving Israel toward their promised land, Egypt kept calling them back. And what's chilling is this: they didn't want to go back to slavery. They wanted to go back to the food, the comfort, the familiar rhythm of a life God had already declared finished. That's how it works. The enemy doesn't always tempt you with chains. Sometimes he tempts you with memory. Nostalgia is one of the most spiritually dangerous forces an older believer faces. Story. Because you've lived long enough to have real memories, real love, real history. And when loneliness settles in, and for many of you it has, quietly, consistently, the past starts to look warmer than it actually was. You start to remember the good and forget why you left. You start to feel like maybe the problem was you. Maybe if you'd done it differently, maybe there's still something to fix, something to save. Let me speak to that wound directly. Closure is not always your assignment. Some doors are holy because they are closed. Not every unfinished story is waiting for your return. Some of them are waiting for your release. Proverbs 26:11 says it plainly: as a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool repeats his folly. Now, God is not calling you a fool, He's calling you chosen. But He's warning you, don't let sentimentality dress up what He already delivered you from. Not everything that comes back came back blessed. Think about it this way: when a door has been chained shut and you hear rattling on the other side, your first instinct might be that someone good is trying to get in. But sometimes that rattling isn't a rescue, it's a test. It's the enemy checking whether the lock is still holding, checking whether you've grown soft, checking whether loneliness has made you desperate enough to open what God sealed. And here's the part that should shake you awake. The return rarely comes at a random time. It comes right when God is moving, right when your faith is building, right when the breakthrough is close enough to smell. Because the enemy has studied your patterns. He knows your pressure points. He knows that after long seasons of silence and struggle, your defenses drop, your discernment gets tired, and a familiar voice sounds safer than an unknown future. So let me ask you something, and I don't need you to answer out loud. Just let it sit. What has been trying to come back into your life since God started shifting you? What old thing has been knocking? What familiar face, familiar thought, familiar compromise has been showing up in your mind at 2 inches the morning when the house is quiet and you're too tired to fight it? Because if you can name it, you can refuse it. And refusing it is not weakness. Refusing it is not bitterness. Refusing it is obedience. It is you telling God, I trust where you're taking me more than I trust where I've already been. Just because it came back doesn't mean it came back blessed. Say that to yourself one more time. Just because it came back does not mean it came back blessed. Hold that truth like a shield. Because where you're going requires your hands to be free. And you cannot carry your future while you're still gripping what God already told you to put down. Now, if that wasn't the test that found you, the second one might be even more dangerous. Because it doesn't come through the heart. It comes through pressure. And pressure has a way of making wrong decisions feel not just reasonable, but righteous. Now let me go somewhere real with you. Because the first warning, the spiritual drift, the quiet numbness that one lives in the soul. But this second one? This one lands on your kitchen table. This one shows up in your mailbox. This one wakes you up at 3 inches the morning when the house is completely still and the numbers still don't add up. I'm talking about financial panic, and I'm not speaking theoretically. I'm not preaching from a distance. I'm talking about the kind of pressure that older Americans carry in silence every single day, and nobody sees it. Nobody talks about it, but God sees it. You've had nights where you sat down with a pen and paper, added everything up, and felt your chest tighten because the math didn't work. You've carried silent financial humiliation that you wouldn't dare speak out loud, not to your children, not to your friends, not even fully to God. You've had to act okay, composed, faithful, together, while quietly praying over groceries, over prescriptions, over rent, over a car repair bill that showed up at the worst possible moment. And in that moment, fear grabbed the wheel. Here's what nobody warns you about fear. Fear doesn't announce itself as fear. It disguises itself as urgency. It tells you there's no time to pray, no time to wait, no time to trust. It says, move now, decide now, call that person now, take that offer now, sign that paper now. And that's exactly where the enemy wants you. Because fear is a hijacker. It slides into the driver's seat of your discernment and throws wisdom clean out the window. And before you know it, you're making permanent decisions based on temporary panic. You're returning to people who cost you your peace just because they came holding something that looked like provision. You're rushing out of alignment because staying still felt too expensive. Proverbs 19:2 says it plainly, haste makes mistakes. The soul without knowledge is not good, and whoever moves too fast will miss the path. Chosen one, urgency is not always God. Let that land. Urgency is not always God. Sometimes the pressure you feel to move fast, to compromise, to settle, to accept less than what heaven promised, that pressure is not divine direction. That is a hijacking. That is smoke filling the room, designed to make you panic and run the wrong way. Because here's what the enemy understands about you at this stage of your life. You are tired. You have less runway than you did at 30. And he knows that financial fear in your 70s feels different than financial fear in your 30s. It carries weight that younger people cannot fully comprehend. It whispers things like, it's too late to recover. There's no time left to wait on God. You have to handle this yourself. That whisper is a lie dressed in arithmetic. Think about Elijah under the juniper tree in 1 Kings 19. Exhausted, isolated, convinced it was over. And what did God send him? Not a miracle first, not abundance first. An angel touched him and said, arise and eat. Simple provision. Quiet instruction, one step at a time. Not all provision arrives as abundance first. Sometimes it begins as instruction. Sometimes God's answer to your financial fear is not a check in the mail. It's a word in your spirit that says, be still. I have not forgotten you. I am working in places you cannot see yet. A trembling hand trying to thread a needle in the dark. That's what panic does to your spiritual hearing. It makes it nearly impossible to receive the still small voice of God. And the enemy knows this. That's why financial pressure is one of his most effective weapons against seasoned believers. Not to destroy your faith outright, but to distort it. To make you deaf to divine instruction at the exact moment you need to hear most clearly. The pressure may be real, but pressure is not permission. Pressure does not give you permission to abandon your peace. Pressure does not give you permission to run from your assignment. Pressure does not give you permission to make a fear-based decision and to call it faith. God is not the author of confusion. He is not the author of panic. And if what you're feeling right now is driving you toward desperation rather than discernment, stop, breathe, pray before you move. If you are still believing God to provide without losing your peace, type right now, God will guide me, not fear. Because here's what I need you to hold on to as we move forward. God has never once failed a soul that refused to let panic have the final word. Not once. And he is not about to start with you. But I have to warn you, the third test is even more subtle than broken relationships or financial pressure. Because this one doesn't come through what's around you. It comes through what starts happening inside your mind. And if you don't recognize it quickly enough, it will do more damage than anything life has thrown at you yet. Stay with me. You need to hear this next part. Now, I need to get close to you for a moment. Not pulpit close, soul close. Because what I'm about to say, most preachers won't say it. Most messages skip right past it. But if you've been walking with God for decades, and you're still carrying this quiet, unexplainable heaviness, this is the part that was written specifically for you. The third test doesn't come from outside you. It comes from inside. In your own voice, in your own language, dressed in your own memories. And that is precisely what makes it the most dangerous test of all. It doesn't sound like the devil. It sounds like experience. It sounds like wisdom. It sounds like you finally being realistic after years of hoping for things that never came. It whispers things like, maybe nothing is really changing. Maybe I missed my time. Maybe this message is for everybody but me. Maybe I've endured too much to expect anything now. And here's what makes that so devastating. Doubt that speaks in your own voice doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like an honest assessment. It feels like maturity, like you've finally stopped being naive. But chosen one, hear me on this. That is not wisdom. That is rust forming silently beneath the paint. You can't see it from the surface. The house still looks fine, but underneath, the structure is being eaten alive. The enemy's most sophisticated strategy is not temptation, it is narration. He wants you to tell yourself your own story of defeat, because once you become the author of your own impossibility, he doesn't have to do anything else. Proverbs 23:7 says it plainly, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Not as he prays, not as he declares publicly, as he thinks, as he rehearses in the quiet courtroom of his own mind, where no one else is in the room, where the sentences you repeat to yourself every single morning become the verdict you live under. And some of you have been living under a verdict that God never issued. You've been in that courtroom alone, replaying the losses, the years that slipped by, the relationships that didn't survive, the dreams you quietly buried because life kept demanding things you didn't have. And somewhere in that courtroom, the enemy handed you the gavel and let you convict yourself. Think about what you've been saying to yourself lately, not out loud, in the quiet, in the dark, in those 3 a.m. moments when sleep won't come and the mind starts walking through every room of regret. Are those thoughts yours? Or have weeds grown so deep in the garden of your mind that you can no longer tell the difference between a lie you inherited and a truth you actually know? Because what you repeat, you reinforce. What you internalize, you empower. And what you empower, eventually, you become. Romans 12:2 doesn't say, be transformed by better circumstances. It says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Because God knew the real battlefield was never out there. It was always in here. Now let me speak to something that doesn't get spoken about enough in church. The fear of being too late. The grief that comes with looking back at years and wondering, what if I wasted the very window God gave me? What if my best season already passed and I was too broken, too buried, too distracted to step into it? That grief is real, and it is heavy. And if you are carrying it right now, I am not going to dismiss it with 3 fast scriptures and a praise break. I am going to sit here with you for a moment, because God sees that grief. He sees the years. He sees what it cost you just to still be standing. And He is not looking at you the way the enemy wants you to believe. He is with disappointment, with distance, with a closed hand. He is looking at you the way He looked at Lazarus in that tomb, not with sorrow as the final word, but with resurrection as the next sentence. John 11:43. He didn't whisper, He didn't suggest, He commanded. And what was dead came out. Chosen one, you cannot walk into a promised season while rehearsing a defeated script. You cannot receive what God has prepared with hands still clenched around the narrative that it's too late, that you're too old, that too much has gone wrong. The warning God is sounding right now is this: check what's playing on repeat in the theater of your mind. Because some of those sentences you've accepted as truth were never sent from heaven. They were planted, carefully, quietly, in your own voice. Take inventory right now. Seriously. The sentences you've been repeating to yourself lately, some of them may not be yours. And once you recognize the test, you can stop failing what you didn't even know you were in. Because this is exactly where everything starts to turn. The question is, are you ready to let God rewrite the script? Because what He's about to reveal in the next moment will show you not just how the enemy got in, but precisely how God is about to shut that door forever. You heard the warning. Now comes the moment that separates the ones who shift from the ones who stay stuck. Because here is what I've learned in decades of walking with God and walking with people through their darkest seasons. The warning was never the hard part. The response is, most people hear God speak. They nod. They feel it in their chest. They say, "Yes, Lord, I know." And then they walk back into the same patterns, the same avoidance, the same comfortable numbness. And 6 months later, they're standing in the rubble, wondering how everything fell apart so quietly. Don't let that be your story. Not today. Not after everything you've already survived. God is not looking for your emotion right now. He's looking for your decision. Jeremiah 7:23 says it plainly. "Obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you shall be my people." Not feel my voice, not admire my voice. Obey it. So here is your framework. 4 steps, heaven's marching orders. Simple enough to remember, powerful enough to change everything. The first step is stop. Not slow down, stop. Before you react, before you explain yourself, before you justify what you've been doing, stop. Hit the brakes before you reach the bridge that can't hold what you're carrying anymore. Because most of the destruction in people's lives doesn't come from one dramatic explosion. It comes from momentum, from moving too fast in the wrong direction for too long. You have been moving. You have been managing. You have been functioning. But functioning is not the same as walking in alignment, but stop long enough to feel the difference. The second step is search. Ask yourself one honest question. What has God already been saying that you haven't fully answered? Not what you want Him to say. Not what feels comfortable. What has He actually been repeating through Scripture? Through that quiet nudge at 3 inches the morning? Through the same message finding you 3 times in 1 week? Because God is not a God of confusion. If something keeps showing up, it's not coincidence, it's instruction. Proverbs 3-6 says, "In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths." The direction is already there. The question is whether you've been acknowledging or avoiding. Search honestly. Clear the debris from the runway, because nothing can land in your life when the path is blocked by things you haven't dealt with yet. The third step is savor. This is the one most people skip, and it is the one that costs them everything. There is something in your life right now, and you know what it is that keeps weakening your clarity. Maybe it's a relationship that drains your spirit every time you engage with it. Maybe it's a habit you've justified because it helps you cope. Maybe it's a version of yourself you've been protecting because letting it go feels like loss. Cut it loose. Dead weight doesn't feel heavy until you're trying to climb, and God is about to take you higher. You cannot carry that into where He's taking you. Hebrews 12:1 says, "Let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us." Not some of the weight, every weight. Sever what is sinking you before it takes you down with it. The fourth step is stand. This is where your faith becomes real. Not stand when you feel confident. Not stand when the circumstances change. Stand now. Obey now. Move now, even with shaking hands and a trembling heart. Because God has never asked you to feel certain before you move. He asked Abraham to leave before He showed him where he was going. He asked Peter to step out before the water proved it could hold him. He is asking you to stand before the feeling catches up to the faith. Reset your compass before the long drive begins. You don't wait until you're lost to figure out your direction. You set it before you move. Chosen one, hear me. What falls apart is not always your life. Sometimes what falls apart is the false structure that was never built to carry your destiny, the relationships that weren't real, the comfort zones that were keeping you small, the version of normal that God never designed for you. Sometimes collapse is not the enemy. Sometimes collapse is the mercy of God, dismantling what was blocking your elevation. But you have to respond. You have to obey quickly, completely, without waiting for perfect emotional certainty. Because heaven responds when agreement changes. Right here, right now. Make your decision. No more delay. No more numb agreement with confusion. No more saying soon when God has already said now. If you are ready to obey quickly, type it right now. My answer is yes, Lord. Because in the next section, I'm going to show you what often happens within days of real obedience. What shifts, what opens, what God begins to release the moment you stop negotiating and start moving. And chosen one, what He's been holding for you, is worth every uncomfortable step it takes to get there. Now let me tell you what happens on the other side of yes. Because you've heard the warning, you've felt it land in your chest. And the question isn't whether God was speaking. The question is, what changes when you finally listen? Everything. Not all at once. Not with thunder and lightning. Not with a headline or a miracle you can photograph. It starts quieter than that. It starts the way sunrise starts, not with a switch being flipped, but with darkness slowly losing its argument. The first thing that shifts is peace. Not the peace the world sells you, not the kind that comes from circumstances finally cooperating. This is the peace Paul described in Philippians 4-7, the peace that passes all understanding, the peace that guards your heart and mind. It doesn't make sense given what's still unresolved around you, but it settles in anyway, like a hand on your shoulder in the dark, like the static finally leaving the signal. Suddenly, you can hear clearly again. Suddenly, the noise that's been crowding your spirit for months, maybe years, begins to lose its volume. And then, clarity comes. You start seeing things you couldn't see before. Decisions that felt impossible become obvious. Relationships that were draining you, you finally see them for what they are. The voices that had access to your peace start losing their signal. Not because you fought them off, because obedience repaired your spiritual alignment. Like wheels coming back into position on a car that's been pulling sideways for too long, you stop veering, you start moving straight. Here's what I need you to understand, especially those of you who've been told it's too late, who've been living like your best chapters are behind you, who've started shrinking your expectations because you've been disappointed so many times, you stopped believing big was even an option. Heaven still moves in late chapters. Abraham was 75 years old when God told him to pack up and go. Moses was 80 years old when he stood before Pharaoh. Anna was 84 years old, a widow, living in the temple, and she was the one God chose to announce the Messiah with her own voice. 84 years old. Don't you dare tell me it's too late. Because obedience at any age, at any stage, reopens what disobedience quietly closed. It removes the debris from the river, and when the debris is removed, the water moves again. The flow returns. What looked stagnant starts running. What looked dry starts filling. And then something beautiful begins to happen in the quiet places. Favor starts showing up where you didn't expect it. A door opens you didn't knock on. A phone call comes from somewhere you'd stopped hoping. A provision arrives from a direction that makes no human sense. You walk into a room and something has shifted, not just around you, but in you. Your presence carries something again. Your eyes carry something again. That thing that weariness stole, dignity, purpose, holy usefulness, it starts returning. This is what obedience does. It doesn't just save you from collapse. It restores what collapse tried to take. The river flows again, the curtains open, and light fills the room. And you realize the assignment was never over. God wasn't done writing. He was waiting for you to pick the pen back up. But there is one final revelation here most people never understand. Why would God send such a strong warning if he already knows the future? Think about that. If God is sovereign, if he already sees the ending, why does he warn at all? Why does he interrupt? Why does he press on your spirit at 2 inches the morning? Why does he send the same message 3 different ways until you can't ignore it anymore? Because the warning itself is the mercy. He doesn't warn what he plans to abandon. He warns what he has already decided to keep. The warning is not evidence that disaster owns your future. The warning is proof that mercy got there first. Mercy moved before the mistake could finalize. Mercy arrived before the crack became the collapse. Mercy spoke before the silence became permanent. That is who God is. That is what this moment is. Take 1 second right now, right where you are, and thank God in advance, not for the breakthrough you're still waiting to see, but for the warning that came before the wreck. That warning was love wearing a serious face. And that warning was the Father stepping in front of the door before it swung open into something you couldn't come back from. The warning was never your punishment. It was your preservation. And now that you've heard it, now that you've received it, something has already begun to shift in the unseen. The wheels are coming back into alignment. The static is clearing. The river is moving again. But before we go any further, I need to show you the 3 signs that tell you where you actually are right now in God's timeline. Because one of them is going to stop you cold. And once you see it, you will never read your current season the same way again. Now, I need you to shift your thinking. Because everything you thought you knew about warnings, everything the world told you a warning means, God is about to turn it completely upside down. You thought the warning meant you were in trouble. You thought the nudging meant you had failed. You thought the interruption meant God was frustrated with you. But can I tell you the truth that changed everything for me? The warning was never the sign that God had stepped back. The warning was the sign that he was still close enough to whisper. Think about that. Really sit with it. A shepherd doesn't use his rod on sheep that have already wandered off a cliff. He uses it on the ones still within reach. The rod comes out because the shepherd is right there watching, guiding, refusing to let go. Hebrews 12:6 says it plainly. Whom the Lord loves, he disciplines, not punishes. Disciplines. There is a difference so vast, so holy, that missing it could cost you years of unnecessary grief. Punishment says you are finished. Discipline says you are family. And God does not discipline strangers. He disciplines sons. He disciplines daughters. He disciplines the ones whose names he already knows, whose futures he has already written, whose destinies he refuses to let the enemy steal without a fight. So let me ask you something that might shake loose something deep inside you. When is the last time God interrupted you? When is the last time a door closed that you were absolutely certain was yours? When is the last time a plan fell apart that you had prayed over, worked for, believed in, and it still didn't open? You called it a setback. Heaven called it salvation. Because here is what mature faith understands, that young faith has not yet learned blessing does not always arrive looking like increase. Sometimes blessing arrives looking like a hand on your shoulder right before the wrong turn. Sometimes it looks like a lighthouse flashing in dangerous water, not to welcome you in, but to warn you away from the rocks hiding beneath the surface. God closed that door because he saw what was behind it. You didn't, but he did, and he loved you too much to let you walk through it. I think about a father watching his child run toward the street. He doesn't stand back and let the lesson happen naturally. No, he grabs that child. He pulls them back hard. And in that moment the child might cry, might be confused, might even be angry. But the Father's hands are not hands of rejection. They are hands of rescue. God grabbed you, and some of you are still confused about why it hurt. It hurt because He pulled you back fast. It hurt because the rescue was real. But you are standing here today, breathing, believing, watching this because those hands never let go. Now, here is where this gets personal. Here is where I need you to stop and really hear me. God could have left you to your own decisions, every single one of them. He could have said, "You want to go that way? Go." He could have gone silent, stopped nudging, stopped convicting, stopped sending people across your path at the exact right moment with the exact right word. But He didn't. He came back into your confusion and called your name again. Do you understand what that means? That is not the behavior of a God who has given up on you. That is the behavior of a God who is so deeply, so relentlessly, so furiously committed to your future that He keeps showing up even when you stopped expecting Him. The fact that He is still confronting you, that means your story is not over. The fact that He is still redirecting you, that means the destination is still ahead. The fact that He is still warning you, that means you are still worth warning. Chosen one, don't just thank God for the open doors. Thank Him for the closed ones, the delayed ones, the interrupted ones. Thank Him for the dangerous roads He blocked before you ever saw the danger. Thank Him for the relationships He ended before they ended you. Thank Him for the opportunities that fell apart that would have taken you apart with them. Because every single one of those moments was not rejection, it was intimacy. It was God near enough to act, near enough to intervene, near enough to redirect. That is not the distance of an angry God. That is the closeness of a faithful Father who sees the whole road when you can only see 10 feet in front of you. The warning was favor wearing a face you didn't recognize. And now that you recognize it, now that your eyes are open to what God has actually been doing in the hard seasons, in the silent seasons, in the seasons that almost broke you, there is one final thing I need to place in your hands before this message is complete. A direct charge, a specific call to action for the next 24 hours of your life. And what I'm about to tell you, most believers never act on it. But the ones who do, everything changes. We have come too far in this word for you to walk away unchanged. You heard the first warning. What keeps returning from your past is not nostalgia. It is a test. And God has already given you the answer. You heard the second warning. The pressure trying to force decisions through fear is not your guide. Fear has never once built anything worth keeping. You heard the third warning. The voice narrating doubt in your mind is not the voice of heaven. It is a counterfeit, and you have been listening to it long enough. Now hear this. You are standing at a gate right now, not tomorrow, right now. And on one side of that gate is everything the enemy has been using to slow you down. The confusion, the compromise, the cold places in your spirit you stopped talking about. On the other side is the season God has been constructing while you were barely holding on. You do not get to walk through that gate carrying everything you came in with. Something has to be left behind. Tonight. So here is what the next 24 hours require of you. Not next week, not when you feel ready. The next 24 hours. Pray. Not a performance, a conversation. Get alone with God and say exactly what is true. He already knows it. He is waiting for you to say it out loud. Remove one compromising influence from your life. One. You know exactly what it is. You have known for months. The relationship that drains your conviction. The habit that numbs your discernment. The voice that always talks you out of obedience. Remove it. Write down what God has already said to you. Because you have not forgotten. You have been postponing. Get a piece of paper and write the word He gave you, the instruction you filed away, the promise you stopped standing on. Write it down and put it somewhere you cannot avoid. And stop delaying the one clear act of obedience You have been rationalizing for far too long. Deuteronomy 30:19 says it plainly, I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, not eventually. Choose it now. Because, chosen one, let me say what this entire message has been building toward. You are not too old. Do not let that lie live another day in your mind. Abraham was 75 when God called him to move. Moses was 80 when God sent him to lead. Your age is not your expiration date. It is your qualification. You are not forgotten. The warning that found you today did not come from an algorithm. It came from a God who is so intentional about your life that he interrupted your day to seal the cracks before the storm arrived. You are not disqualified. Every scar you carry, every season you survived, every silent night you prayed when nobody was watching, none of it removed you from the plan. All of it prepared you for it. The warning came because your destiny is still alive. God does not send sirens to empty buildings. Now I need you to open your mouth and declare this. Not whisper it, declare it. I will no longer agree with confusion. I will no longer surrender to fear. I will no longer reopen doors God has already closed. I will no longer let panic drive decisions that faith should be making. I draw a line in the sand today, and I choose life. I choose obedience. I choose the voice of God over the noise of everything else. Say it like you mean it, because heaven is listening. Chosen one, the trumpet has sounded, not to alarm you, to mobilize you. The march begins now, and you are not marching alone. Every promise God has spoken over your life is marching with you. Every prayer you prayed in the dark is marching with you. Every tear that watered the ground of your faith is marching with you. You will not fall apart, because you were warned in time. You will not miss what God has for you, because confusion will not speak louder than conviction. Not anymore. You will not be dragged back into what God brought you out of. That chapter is closed. Heaven sealed it. And what the enemy designed to turn into your collapse, God is already turning into your confirmation. Romans 8:28. All things work together for good to them that love God. All things, even this season, even this warning, even this moment. If this word confirmed what your spirit already knew, type right now, I choose obedience over collapse. Pray before you sleep tonight. Do not let this word stay inspiration. Turn it into instruction. Because what you do after this message may explain exactly why your next season looks nothing like your last one. Stay close, because God is not finished speaking, and neither are we. You were warned in time, chosen one. Now walk like it.